Where's Earth?
Seems we have intercepted a transmission of unknown origin.
Human.
Unknown.
What the hell is that?
Hey, everybody. He's Dallas. She's Ripley. He's Brett. He's Kane. No, that ain't it. He's Ash. He's Ash. He is Ash. He's also Ash, but she's Lambert. He's Parker. I'm the alien. Somebody's the alien, but we aren't aliens. We can be construed for aliens, but we are Vikings Report with Drew, Ted, and Chris. How are you guys doing? Chris, how are you this evening?
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Welcome to the movie we've been sitting on for 3 years. My favorite movie of all time. Alien.
Is it really? Is it really your favorite
number
movie
one of all time? I've seen it countless numbers of times, and I love it because no one can hear you scream in space.
Oh, God. It's moving right towards you. Move. Get out of there.
Absolute best sci-fi movie ever made to date.
So let me ask you this. Since it's your favorite movie, not very many sequels live up to the original. I am of the opinion Aliens is probably, other than maybe Godfather Part 2, the best sequel to an original movie ever made. Agree
Absolutely.
or not?
Absolutely, 100% agree.
Chris, yay or nay?
It's right there. I mean, I wouldn't put it above Godfather 2, but it's right there.
Let's just put this out there right now. The world was saved by a warrant officer. I'm just saying, a warrant officer, not a commission guy. And look, in Aliens, a lieutenant just about got everybody killed. In Alien, a warrant officer saved the entire world from being destroyed. A warrant officer.
It means killing it.
Obviously, it means killing it.
I got a tasty tidbit. One tasty tidbit. Balaji Badial may not seem like a household name to you.
Gesundheit.
That was the guy in the alien suit.
Mm.
They had no actor for the alien suit, and after every day they do the shooting, they go down to this English pub and they get drunk, all the cast and Ridley Scott. And they walked in and he was in there, like 7 feet tall, 7'2", and like 6 feet of them were legs. And they needed a guy with tall legs, and Ridley Scott immediately ran over to the bar and said, "Dude, you ever done a movie?" And he goes, "No, I'm not an actor." And he says, "Well, you're going to be one now." Rest in peace, Balaji.
That was a good movie. And it was one of the all-time classic scenes in cinematic history. Now, you probably know this, Drew. Chris, I'm not sure if you know this, but the scene I think you know I'm talking about where the alien is born, if you will.
Sure.
The actors, when that happened, didn't know that was going to happen.
Right.
Did you know this, Chris?
No, I didn't.
So Ridley Scott had this set up, like the props folks kept this as a top secret thing because he wanted a genuine reaction from the cast when it happened. They didn't know how it was going to happen, but when it happened, that was their real life reaction. You know, the gal that played Lambert, I think it was, absolutely wigged out. I mean, if you recall, she's
Yeah.
I saw an interview years later. She said, "Yeah, we didn't know this was coming."
It was so real to them. I think Yaphet Kotto grabbing that fork, and the guy go, "No, don't touch it, don't touch it." I think he was really going to try to kill that thing with the fork, Parker. They had a hard time selling that to the studio. When the studio saw the chest burster scene, they're going, "We can't have that in the movie." And they said, "Well, there's no movie. That's going to be the movie. You got to have that part in there." So they went back and forth, and Ridley Scott usually wins everything he directs. So
it's a great movie.
And then the best part came after that when the little alien did the song and dance number with the... Oh, wait, that was Spaceballs where they did that.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Never mind. I'm thinking of the wrong movie. But it would have been awesome if they would have pulled that off in Alien, though.
And then we can't forget Alien versus Predator. The spinoff from that. That was.
I never saw that. I never saw any of those.
I liked Aliens too. I like the late great Bill Paxton as the ever pessimistic United States colonial marine. Game over, man. Yeah, that's a great movie too. Why don't you put her in charge then?
Well, that's great. That's just great, man. Now what the are we supposed to do? That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
This little girl survived here with 5 years with no training and no weapons. Well, put her charge in, man. The sequels were all really good, just like our wide receiver sequels tonight.
Like Drew just mentioned, we're continuing our off-season positional analysis with wide receiver. Episode 123 tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. If you would, please like, subscribe, do all that stuff you're supposed to do. We are chugging along with the off-season. Also, if you would, head on over to Purple Pain Forums, our online affiliate, purplepainforums.com. It's a great community of Minnesota Vikings fans, very intelligent group of folks. Great discussions going on about what to do this offseason, who the Vikings should draft. Should they draft the quarterback? If it is, who should it be? Should they go somewhere else? Great offseason plan, options, ideas. None of the stupid hot takes about, well, here's mock draft 407.2 with my 94 trades that gives me 87 first-round draft picks over the next 4 years. Chris, I know you're on Twitter a lot. I'm done with it. I'm so done. I'm so done with Twitter. I'm so done with it, man.
I'm not worried because, you see, on Twitter, you can pay me $8 a month to say whatever you want, as long as you agree with me.
Every time I get on Twitter and I read Vikings rumors and Vikings hot takes and whatever, I am constantly reminded of the words of the noted American legal scholar Vincent LaGuardia Gambini and his delivery of what can only be called the single greatest opening statement in the history of American jurisprudence, which I believe Toonces has all queued up and ready to go for us.
Everything that guy just said is bull. Thank you.
Another great movie, by the way, My Cousin Vinny, if you haven't seen it.
I don't do Twitter, and much of that can be applauded to you by many years ago, you saying you're smart for staying off that. So I stay off it because
You're
well,
smart,
David Stefano told me yesterday your head would explode, Drew. You're one of those guys where your head would explode. Being we're doing Alien tonight, is being on Twitter much like when Dallas was going through the tunnel with the tracker, and then he turned around and the alien was right there? Is that what it's like going on Twitter?
So do you remember Vegas Vacation where Chevy Chase keeps losing at the blackjack table? Well, just roll the scene.
Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet? Then we'll go out back, I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
That's pretty much what going on Twitter is. It's just this constant headache, man.
Well, what's wrong with Mock Draft Guy?
I've been sitting here like trying to come up all day. Like I've spent all day trying to think of someone who's just worse more than Mock Draft Guy. And no one is coming to mind. Mock Draft Guy is currently number one on my big board of losers. All right. Oh, you've got 4 quarterbacks going top 5. Whoa. I bet you also have 0 friends going to your draft party.
It's just nonsensical. If somebody has this hot take, and we're going to talk about the one dealing with Justin Jefferson, put out by 21st century yellow journalist muckraker Mike Florio.
Okay, a muckraker is somebody who's digging up the past looking for bad things about people. Yeah? They're trying to spread scandal and rumor. Yeah?
Muckraker.
But yeah, I try and spend less and less time there. During the season, it's not bad. You get real-time injury updates and what's going on and contract stuff. But during the offseason, it's this self-licking ice cream cone of panic and angst and just like high school-ish behavior. I hate it.
Is Florio that guy with the head looks like a clownfish?
Thank you so much for coming out. Get a thicker tie. It looks weird on you. Makes your head look like a fish.
Yeah, on Sunday Night Football.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, like Drew said, we got a little bit of news. We'll talk about that. And we got our wide receiver positional analysis. But before we do that, Drewster, what time is it, buddy?
Ted? I'm cooler than you are. So why don't you fix this, Nostromo, and light this candle?
He's right. Light this candle.
He surely is. Light the candle.
Yes. Resume the countdown.
All right, I'm cooler than you are. Why don't you fix your little problems and light this candle?
He's right. Let's light this candle. He surely is. Light the candle.
Yes. Resume the countdown.
Yes! Before you go away, Ruby, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, good call, Ted.
I didn't think you were going to ask me.
I'm dumb, but I'm not stupid.
I can handle things. I'm smart. Like dumb, I'm smart, and I want respect.
I'm doing fine, but I was wondering if we could do the opening one more time, because I'd like to be the ass character.
Ooh.
Oh, I had you as Ripley and Lambert, the two chicks.
No, the ass character.
That's Ash.
Stop it. No, go away. Minimize your screen and go away.
Yeah, she wants to be Ash. Not the smart Ash.
Just Ash. Okay. Muckraker yellow journalist Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. If he sees this, he might sue me because he's a lawyer.
I don't watch.
Allegedly. If I put
any
allegedly, he can't sue me. Is that true? I don't know. Is anybody on here a lawyer?
Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I don't watch any news. I don't watch ESPN anymore. I gave all that up 3 or 4 years ago. So whatever you guys are bringing up is new to me tonight. None of
All
it.
right. Here's the latest with Justin Jefferson and his contract extension. It's been reported that his extension is hung up by fully guaranteed money. The rumor is that the Vikings ownership now, not management, not the coaching staff, but ownership, the Wilfs, don't want to guarantee anything past the first year.
Before we dock, I think we ought to discuss the bonus situation.
Right.
Brett and I, we think we deserve full shares, right, baby?
You see, Mr. Park and I feel that the bonus situation has never been on an equitable level.
Well, this is what Florio put on his Pro Football Talk website, or it was video, whatever. The problem continues to be not the dollars, but the structure. The Vikings are one of the few teams that will not fully guarantee beyond the first year of the contract for anyone other than Kirk Cousins. And if you are not going to make the same exception for Jefferson, you are going to have a problem with Justin Jefferson eventually. That feels dumb on the surface because they guaranteed more than 1 year for TJ Hawkinson, and they have said they are not going to guarantee any money for Kirk Cousins. So it just feels like an idiotic statement to begin with. Drew.
Jeez. I don't know why he wasn't signed last summer. People seem to say, Ted, that Hunter and Cousins, we got to pay all these. How are we going to do it? Well, it's easy. You let Hunter go, you get rid of Cousins, you get it done with Jefferson. I'm shocked this isn't getting done. Give him the guaranteed money, give him what he wants, because he's got 6 or 7 good years left in him. Hunter doesn't.
At least, yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts on this whole Florio
voice of reason? Let's go
thing. Yeah.
You said it's dumb on the surface, and I agree. It's also dumb from 30,000 feet above the surface. It's dumb from approximately 20,000 feet below the surface.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It is dumb by any unit of measure on any plane, anywhere, because Jesus. Whenever you say something about Florio, is the comeback like, oh, Florio is a Vikings fan. Whatever. It's like so many other people. He would have to improve greatly to rise to the level of yellow journalism at this point. I mean, it's so awful. Journalism isn't even journalism at this point anymore. It's just people throwing out hot takes, trying to get reactions, trying to get clicks. I mean, I guess it's kind of the difference, I think, between being a fan and being a content creator. We're doing this. We're fans of the team. We're trying to look at the team from a fan's perspective. We're not doing this to try to get people to click or like or whatever, that kind of thing. I mean, it's nice that people subscribe and follow and, give us compliments and that kind of thing. But you guys were doing this when you had like 20 followers on here, and now you're up to 25,000. You didn't stop doing it. You didn't change anything just because, you got more people in the fold or anything like that. But, there are so many of these people that are just out to get outrage and clicks and whatever. And it's stupid at this point.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I agree with you here that people put stuff out just to get a reaction, and sadly, it works. 99% of the stuff I see on my timeline, I just shake my head and I just move along. And I think if people would quit doing that, a lot of it would go away.
And I want to kind of liken it to another incident back from when, you were still regularly writing at DN and whatnot. The whole thing with Adrian Peterson and his son with the discipline and the what, how much hell did you and Eric and I catch from our readers for suggesting that, maybe he shouldn't have done that? Maybe that was bad.
For those of you that don't know, I wrote a piece on the Daily Norseman and said, look, I think once the NFL has handed out their punishment and Adrian Peterson deserves to play football, but I think the Vikings should release him. I literally got death threats. It's weird the way people will twist themselves into pretzels to defend the players that play for their favorite team. It is just bizarre how unhinged people get about sports. That's weird coming from dudes that do a podcast about their favorite football team. But
yeah,
I mean, Drew, I think we're fairly rational. I think we give them credit when they do good things, but I think we're also reasoned in our criticism when they do things that we don't agree with.
Well, how's that saying go? Two things that'll drive a room full of guys crazy and fighting over each other will be sports and a hot chick.
I think the Wilfs understand, especially if they're moving on from Kirk, and we don't know if that's going to happen or not. I think it's just trying to figure out what fits with the Vikings, what's comfortable with Jefferson, and how much guaranteed money they're going to give him, and how many guaranteed years he wants, or how much guaranteed money he wants in the years. And I think it's going to get done. The Wilfs understand that, especially if Kirk Cousins leaves, and it just sort of feels that way when you look at how things have transpired with Kirk. The Wilfs have got to understand that he is the most marketable player on the Minnesota Vikings. He is the guy that puts butts in seats right now.
And sells jerseys. I bet you 95% of the jerseys are his.
He sells jerseys. He sells tickets. He's on commercials. When you turn on a TV and you see a commercial that's NFL themed and there's a football player in it, chances are Justin Jefferson is in it. It's not Danielle Hunter, maybe Kirk Cousins, but that's really it. And for people that say the Wilfs are in it as owners just to make money and they don't care about winning a Super Bowl, they just want to have a competitive team. Well, if that's your belief, then you're kind of an idiot if you think they're willing to trade Justin Jefferson. Because if that's what you think the Wilfs are in it for, then obviously just turn on your peanut brain for a minute and they have to sign Justin Jefferson, because that is going to maximize the profit of this franchise by keeping a guy like Justin Jefferson.
Do you think the Vikings have already told Justin Jefferson their plans for quarterback? I think their quarterback thing is all figured out. I think they know they're just keeping it on the hush hush. Have they already told him what they're going to do at quarterback?
I would think he's got to be in on the plans somewhere at some point. I mean, he's your best player. He's the face of the franchise. He's becoming one of the faces of the league. And if you're going to have that guy here for the long term, you got to have him as part of the discussions at least. And maybe they've already told him they're moving on from Kirk Cousins and not bringing him back. I mean, we don't know.
Right.
The one thing you can be sure of at this point in the offseason is that nobody knows anything about anything, whether they think they know something about it or not.
You really don't know. You think you know, but you don't know. And you never will.
Better get it done, Ted. If something other than signing Jefferson happens and he happens not to be a Viking, which I don't think will happen, you're going to have a riot on your hands. And it won't be a riot from adults. Every 8 to 13-year-old kid is going to riot. It'll be children of the corn, Ted. It'll be like children of the corn.
Punches thrown, a group of girls seen kicking someone on the ground.
I'll tell you, my grandson Grayson became a huge Vikings fan this year. That's probably my fault. I don't know when I die, when I'm standing at the pearly gates, which I hope I am. And I'm being judged by the good Lord. I don't know if that's going to be a check mark for the good or for the bad. But but his favorite player is Justin Jefferson. He's got a Justin Jefferson jersey. So yeah.
See? The youth. The Utes.
The Utes.
The Utes would go crazy, Chris Gates.
The what, Mr. Gambini?
The two Utes.
But now other people have said, well, look, if they trade Jefferson, they can get a haul for him, and that will give them enough ammunition to move up and get a quarterback. But now you're kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face by trading your best asset, in my opinion, to help develop a young quarterback that you would be trading up to get. But whatever. So, all right, last question before we move on. Will a new deal for Jefferson be done before the start of the regular season, Drew?
Yes.
Chris?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, last bit of wide receiver news. Drew, do you watch American Idol? So no. We'll take that as no.
Come on,
Chris, do you watch American Idol?
No, it's been many, many years since I watched American Idol last.
Do you guys remember Blake Prohl?
Ricky Prohl's kid.
About as injury prone as the great Chad Beebe, the chosen one.
Yeah, both those guys' fathers were 3 times better than them.
Yeah, well, Blake Prohl had to retire from the NFL because he had an injury, and he had to end up singing for his supper. And apparently he's a very good singer. And he is now advancing to Hollywood on American Idol. So we wish Blake Prohl well. Yeah, he's like good, man.
What the
he's
hell
like really good.
What does he sing? I'm a Loser by Beck? I mean,
no, he's good.
The way he catches passes, he might be singing what? Miss You by the Rolling Stones? I mean, what's he singing?
I don't know.
That.
Well, maybe if we can, we'll find a clip and we'll play it here.
My name is Blake Prohl. I'm 24 years old, and I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina.
In case you didn't know, baby, I'm crazy about you. And I would be lying if I said that I could live this life without you.
Just sign right here.
Our good friend Eric Thompson put out a tweet that, hey, this is the one shot for a Viking to win a championship.
For now, sure.
For now.
Yeah.
All righty.
You go, Blake Prohl.
All righty. Good luck to Blake Prohl on American Idol.
Hey everyone, it's Ted's grandson Grayson, and now it's time for the Vikings Report off-season positional analysis segment. Hit it, Papa.
Thanks, Grace. I don't know if you guys remember last year it was Gabriel that was doing these for us. No, our other grandson, Grayson.
Thank you, Grayson. Hell of a job.
Very nice. Thanks.
Pretty cool. All right. So, Drew, this week it's wide receivers with the big board. We've got, as always, though, before we get to the big board, we've got guys on the roster. We've got potential free agents, and then your world-famous, regionally popular big board, top 15 prospects per Drew Bunting. Currently on the roster. So, the first 2 weeks we did this, quarterback and running back, pretty significant positions of need. I don't know about how you guys feel. I think the Vikings are sitting okay at wide receiver with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I would argue it's kind of a position, like it's something they could address later on in the draft, or maybe as kind of a depth guy in free agency, but it's not a priority like we see with possibly running back or definitely quarterback right now.
No, absolutely agree. I mean, those top 2 guys are about as good as it gets, but the guys that are after them on the depth chart as things stand right now, a lot of them are probably not going to be here next season. So, there is going to be a need for some depth pieces and some probably younger guys that can come in and compete a little bit.
Chris talked about the guys below Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. We'll go through those real quick. Let me get your opinion on them. Jalen Naylor, I don't even know her. N'Keal Harry, Tristan Jackson, Malik Knowles, Dalen Baldwin, and Thayer Thomas. Jalen Naylor is a guy, I remember doing his draft profile we did a couple years ago, and you said he's a guy that is just, if he could stay healthy, it was kind of his thing at Michigan State, if he could stay healthy. And It sort of dogged him in the NFL as well, Drew. And he just has not been able to stay healthy. It's one of those things that I think if he could be a significant contributor to this offense. But I don't know that he can at this point.
The injury thing only lasts after a couple seasons, you got to move on because it's more of a pattern for that guy. And, I think he's a capable wide receiver, but the Vikings got to make decisions on guys, not just at wide receiver, these guys that are on the injured reserve every week for the whole season. You got to move on from those guys. And Naylor would be the best one after the top 2, but he's boom roasted. Harry, come on. Rather have Deborah Harry out there than N'Keal Harry. Boom roasted. Tristan Jackson, boom roasted. Malik Knowles, Dylan Baldwin and Thayer Thomas. Sounds like I'm lisping, doesn't it? Thayer Thomas.
I had no idea that there was another Baldwin brother that nobody knew about, but apparently the Vikings had him on the practice squad, which is kind of impressive.
That's right.
The sixth Jackson with Tristan.
Tristan Jackson, bring him over to camp and see what you can make out of him. The rest are all boom roasted. And Ted, this is a great year to get a wide receiver because this is the best receiver class that we're going to run into that I've seen in many, many years. You can get a guy late that's going to be a really talented guy. They don't need to mess around with all these extra weight on the roster. I say Addison, JJ, and then whatever you want to do after that. I don't know how you feel.
Well, okay, before we get to the big board, let's talk free agency real quick because there's some intriguing names in free agency, and I want to talk real quick about two guys that are going to be unrestricted free agents that were on the Vikings last year, Brandon Powell and KJ Osborne. Chris, do you have any interest in re-signing either of those guys?
I would be more inclined to lean toward re-signing Brandon Powell than I would be towards re-signing KJ Osborne. I mean, Osborne has been the number 3 guy for a few years here, and he probably thinks that he can get a better deal somewhere else and more snaps, more opportunities. Powell, I think, is kind of a number 3-ish kind of guy, and he does add that value as far as punt returns are concerned. So if you were going to bring back one of those two guys, I would lean more towards Brandon Powell than KJ Osborne. I don't know if either of them will be back, but that's the direction I'd look in if I were the front office.
Drew, what about you?
It's like we're all on the same wavelength. Man, like Ripley and Parker and Dallas, all those people, they're on the same wavelength, except we're not going to get torn to pieces by an alien. The Vikings aren't going to spend a lot of money on free agency if they get a guy on this position, I don't think. The top 4 you got on there in the list that I got, Matt Yours, Ted, Mike Evans, Beckham, Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd, those guys are going to demand big money. I like T. Higgins, but he's probably going to get asked for more money than we're going to offer. I like Marquise Brown. Brandon Powell, when I look down the list, that's a guy I'd re-sign. You could probably get him for the best deal. The other guy I like is Devin Duvernay from Baltimore. He's a good receiver. I mean, he's only 26 years old, and he's a punt returner. So if you're thinking about trying to get somebody that's a capable receiver and punt returner, he may be a little bit of a step up from Brandon Powell, but I don't know how much you're going to spend on that guy. I like Gabe Davis. He's probably going to ask to get too much money. Braxton Berrios from the Jets, he's also a punt returner. Gives you a little bit at receiver, but whoever they get in free agency, which I probably think they're going to get one, it's not going to be a high-priced guy, do you guys think?
No. Brandon Powell, I think, might be a guy they want to bring back for sure. KJ Osborne, I like KJ Osborne. There were a couple times where you thought, okay, this is his breakout game. A couple of years ago, he had that overtime game winner against Carolina. He had a couple of big catches and a couple touchdowns, I think, and that huge record-setting comeback win against the Colts a couple of years ago. And you think, okay, this is his moment. This is where he kind of takes that next step, and then he would just disappear for 4 or 5 games. I don't think he'll be back.
Just kind of feels like he's not going to be back either.
Yeah, but Powell, I'd like to see back for the same reason, that WR3-ish feel when Justin Jefferson went out last year and that punt return capability that he has. It seemed like he really solidified that punt return slot and kind of an ability that the Vikings really hadn't had in a few years at punt return. Other free agents, Evans, OBJ, and Curtis Samuel, I think are guys that are just going to be priced out of what the Vikings want to pay. Ray McLeod is a dude I kind of like. Calvin Ridley is a dude from Jacksonville. They were paying him number 1 money. I think if he were to come in not as a number 1 guy without the pressure of being a number 1 guy, he might be okay. I don't know if he's wanting that kind of money.
He had a great season, though. Isn't he going to be too pricey?
Well, yeah.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Laviska Shenault, what do you think about him?
He's got the injury bug again, though.
Well, yeah,
he can't stay healthy, but he's one of the most dynamic guys we had when we did he was in the first year of Vikings Report with the draft stuff. Him and Rondale Moore were like 2 guys that.
Rondale Moore, yeah.
Yeah, and Shenault was like out of Colorado. He was everywhere. He was like Deebo Samuel, but he can't stay on the field. Did he have any snaps last year? Did he play any games?
He only played 8 games last year. He had 10 catches. Also he had 12 carries for 55 yards as well. But yeah, he only played 8 games. He's a guy you could probably get at a discount.
If he stays healthy, I think you can get him at a good price, and I think that'd be a good pickup. But like Jalen Naylor, do you want to have him on the injury report every week? Is he going to play? Yeah. What about stealing that guy from the Lions, that Josh Reynolds? I mean, he's 29, but
Yeah.
I always like to steal people from the divisional teams. And
that'd be nice. Yeah.
He's a pretty good receiver. 40 catches, 608 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
I mean, there's some good options in free agency if the Vikings want to go that route for sure, I think. Yeah.
I like the Chenault idea, though, Ted.
Besides Chenault, who did you like, Chris, in free agency?
I think Chenault was the big one for me. I don't know if DJ Chark, if he's an option, a realistic option. I see Chase Claypool on the list. I don't want anything to do with that guy. He's not good.
He feels like the Marcus Davenport of wide receivers, man.
Want him around.
The big thing I remember about Chase Claypool is, remember when we did the live broadcast a few years ago when the Vikings and the Steelers played at US Bank? He's catching passes at the end of the game. The Steelers are trying to drive for a touchdown. He's out there doing the first down signals and freaking marching around and crap.
Wasted time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing I remember about Chase Claypool. I mean, I know it's like old man yelling at cloud territory kind of thing, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff that sticks in your head when do I want this guy on my, no, I don't want this dope on my team. He does stupid things. I don't
Bad
need
attitude
him on my football team. No.
But yeah, so there's potential there for a couple of decent guys at fairly bargain prices if you want to go that route, which I would think, though, Brandon Powell would be a guy the Vikings are going to target and want to bring back. I would hope anyways. Okay, that's the roster. That's the free agent. Now my favorite segment, the Drew Bunning Vikings Report Big Board. Oh, looky here. Who's your top wide receiver, Drew Bunning?
I'm going to turn the Marvin Harrison stuff over to you because you do all the Ohio State guys that come through here. All 4 that I'm going to have in my top 90, 195.
Boom. Roasted.
With Harrison, here's what we're going to do, guys. Trade up and get him. Forget the quarterback. Trade up and get him. Get rid of all the running backs and just throw that son of a bitchin' ball around the field all game. Addison, Jefferson, Harrison, Hawkinson. Get one back for the goal line or something, whoever you want. One back that's never going to play and just throw. That's what it makes you feel like watching that guy's tape.
Yeah.
Trade up for a quarterback. I don't want I want that guy. So take it away, Ted. Give us the lowdown on my number 1 receiver on the Drew Big Board, Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr., who's already better than his dad.
So a couple weeks ago, we talked quarterbacks, and everybody bags on quarterbacks drafted out of Ohio State that never amount to anything. The wide receiver position is kind of the exact opposite. Just in recent years, you've had guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba, Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, Curtis Samuel, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas have had very successful careers. Even going back a few years, guys like Michael Jenkins, who played for the Vikings for a couple of years. Santonio Holmes had that big Super Bowl catch for the Steelers when they beat the Cardinals, I think it was. Anthony Gonzalez was a first-round pick, had that awesome catch against Michigan and that 24-yard catch in 2005. Back when Ohio State could beat Michigan. Going back to the 90s, they had guys like Terry Glenn and Joey Galloway and David Boston. They even have a couple Hall of Fame wide receivers in Paul Warfield and Vikings legend Chris Carter. When it's all said and done, I don't think I'm being dramatic when I say if he goes to the right team in the right situation, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be better than all of these guys. When you look at his tape, he is the best receiver to come out of Ohio State since Chris Carter. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. When you look at his tape and then you go back and you look at some of the catches Chris Carter made when he was playing with Jim Carsados at Ohio State, you just compare him. I mean, Marvin Harrison is a much better route runner than Chris Carter was at this stage of his career. He has maybe not better hands, but they're close. He has as much of a sense of where the sideline is. I don't think he needs to make as dramatic of a one-handed catch as Chris Carter had to make because the game has advanced to the point where quarterbacks are a lot more accurate. Even Kyle, I can't stand the heat, so I went to Syracuse McCord. Compared to Jim Carsados back to the 1980s, Marvin Harrison is as polished a receiver to come out of the college ranks that maybe I have ever seen. Now, I am not an expert film guy. I don't sit and break down film frame by frame, but he is the best wide receiver to come out of Ohio State. He's better than all those guys, maybe other than Chris Carter, that I have just named off. He's better than Smith and Jigba. He's better than McLaurin. He's better than Devin Smith. He's better than Michael Thomas. He's better than all these dudes. He is way more advanced. He is way better route runner. He's faster. I think growing up as Marvin Harrison's kid, he just knows the game a lot better.
Yeah, you can't really say a whole lot more than that.
The one thing that stands out to me on tape is that everything looks so effortless with that guy.
Yeah. Now, a couple times I wasn't sure about his durability. In the semifinal game a couple years ago against Georgia, he took a nasty hit and missed the rest of the game. I think that cost Ohio State a chance in the college football finals, college football playoff championship game. He got dinged up a couple times this year. So durability might be a little bit of an issue. If there's like an Achilles heel to his game, that might be it. But man, that's really the only check mark I could really find in his game.
A lot of times we talk about these prospects, and all three of us agree that it depends where you go, how successful you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Does that stand for Harrison too, or is he just going to be a superstar no matter where he goes?
If he goes to Chicago, who's going to throw to him?
Well, I know, but some guys just like Randy Moss is going to be good no matter where he went. So,
yeah, but I mean, like Moss went to a guy, Denny Green was the coach.
Is Harrison that elite where he doesn't matter what kind of shape the team's in, he's going to bet 1,200 yards his rookie year? I mean,
yeah, I would like to think so, but there's a chance that no, he could go to a team, like Harbaugh, for example, in L.A. likes to run the ball a lot. Now,
Sure.
With Justin Herbert, maybe that'll be different. The thing about Harbaugh is he knows who his personnel are or who he has for his personnel and likes to adapt his offense to meet that. So I would kind of like to see Harrison in L.A. because I think Justin Herbert and Marvin Harrison Jr. would just absolutely light it up. My God, that would be something else. I think his numbers would be significantly different with the Chargers as opposed to like maybe Chicago, for example. But I think it will be hard to keep a guy like Harrison from getting his, regardless of where he goes.
It's going to suck having to watch Harrison run around for, hopefully it's not the Bears. I don't want to see that. Good breakdown, Ted. Excellent. Best wide receiver group that I can remember, Chris Gates. We got a lot of stars, and as you see, I think they're all going to be gone by the third round. We could have a couple trickle down, but there's 10 or 15 guys I had to leave off, like the running backs, that should have been on this list. Yeah.
One thing, you have Marvin Harrison as a top 5 guy. I think he might not be, and I don't say that because of talent. We've talked about quarterbacks, and I think there might be quarterbacks that go 1 through 5.
Really?
Maybe. And it's not because he's not a top 5 talent. He definitely is. I think if it was not a quarterback crazy year, both in terms of talent and need at the position, you could make an argument that he could be a number 1 or number 2 guy overall.
Now you know why I'm not a GM. If I have the number 1 pick in the draft, I'm taking Marvin Harrison.
Are you really?
Yes. Yes, because you don't know with those quarterbacks, you don't want to end up with a Trubisky. Harrison's a 100% success. You're not going to go bad with that guy. I like those draft picks that are no-brainers. That's who I would take first. But like I said, I'm a bass player and I do a podcast. I'm not a GM, nor will I ever be one. You see that guy on the board, how do you not take him? There's 10 or 15 guys I had to leave off here. I hate doing it. I always give these guys a shout out, though. Ricky Pearsall, Florida. Johnny Wilson, Florida State. Corley from Western Kentucky. Jalen McMillan, who we watched at Washington. I had to leave him off. Like I said, there's a bunch of guys that I wish you could make it a top 25, but I can't. It's always a top 15. So we move on to the guy that would have been the first overall pick if Harrison was not in this draft, which is Malik Neighbors, 6 foot, 200 pounds, 4'4". I think he's the best slot receiver. He plays outside too, but I think in the NFL, if you drafted this guy, put him in the slot, he's day one the best slot receiver in the NFL. I think that's what he's cut out to be. I think that's what somebody's going to draft him for. If you're smart, that's what you're going to draft him for. Super talented. Out of 12 games last year, he had 9 games, 100-plus yards. And that's with Brian Thomas Jr. on the other side. Maybe that's something to be said for Jaden Daniels. We talked about him a couple weeks ago, Ted. He had Brian Thomas Jr., who's on my list, and he had Malik Neighbors. So is that why he was such a good quarterback, or is Jaden Daniels going to be, without those caliber guys, is he going to be that good? It has to be factored into somewhere. Just an amazing player, man. 89 catches, 1,569 yards, and 14 touchdowns. That guy is your 13-catch, 150-yard player every week. I'm telling you. It's going to be a great weapon in the NFL. If you have a chance to go watch any tape on Malik Neighbors, it would have to be that Mississippi State game. 13 catches, 239 yards, and 2 touchdowns. All you got to do is watch that game, and your mind will be made up on Malik Neighbors. That dude is crazy good. A couple things to work on: contested catches and the press coverage, which is the same as my number 3 guy, Rome Odunze. Press coverage, basically fighting footballs away from people, which is another thing, Harrison's really good at. The catch point. It's even hard to double cover Harrison, but moving on to Odunze, Washington outside receiver, a little bit bigger than Neighbors. He's 6'3", 215. So teams might want to take him over Neighbors. Harrison's going first. Either Neighbors or Odunze's going second, or flip-flop. That's the 1, 2, 3 receivers off the board in my eyes. Very confident. I love his confidence in the field. He knows all the routes. Gatorade Player of the Year in 2019, the state of Washington. So he's been good forever. 87 catches, 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns. And again, that was with Jalen Polk on the other side catching passes. So it wasn't like he was the center of attention. Biletnikoff finalist, man. The only thing I saw in his film, he tries to body catch low passes, and that's where all of his drops come from. You got to hands catch those things. But body control, and like I said, he's probably the most confident guy I saw in film. His confidence is off the charts, man. He's a very, very good receiver. Oh, I forgot to mention, right when I started off talking about these guys, the biggest thing that jumps off the board with all these players, besides their incredible talent, is the size.
All these dudes are huge, aren't they?
Yeah. Last year when we did our wide receivers, I remember off the board there was I think 3 guys that were either 6'3" or 6'4". I got 8 guys in this draft that are 6'3" or 6'4". So basically, this draft class, evaluating them, is going to be a tall order.
Boy.
That joke was a stretch.
That was a bad one. I like his physical play, great balance. He's the alpha catcher. He gets everything he goes up to try to get. Keon Coleman, again, first-round talent. Brian Thomas Jr., first-round talent. He's your basic outside receiver, another 6'4" guy. Before I tell you these numbers, let me tell you, he played across from Malik Neighbors. He was so-called wide receiver 2. 68 catches, 1,177 yards, and 17 touchdowns.
I have a question. Did Neighbors and Thomas make Jaden Daniels a better quarterback?
That's what I'm saying.
Or did Jaden Daniels make these guys better receivers?
And as Farnsworth would say, we'll find out. Because I don't have any. That's a really, really good question. These 2 receivers, chalk up all their yardage together. It's crazy. Would they have 31 touchdowns? Here's Brian Thomas. 7 catches, 142. 5 catches, 133. 8 catches, 124. 3 catches, 122. 6 catches, 150. That's what you get with that guy. Wow. You get a big average per catch. He's a big game player, Brian Thomas Jr., and I wish I could have ranked him. If this class wasn't so good, he'd be 1 or 2, Ted.
Penix has McMillan and Polk. Did Penix make those guys better receivers, or did those receivers make Penix a better quarterback? Those are the 2 big questions that seem to be going around about those 2 guys. But Penix, since the national championship game and the Senior Bowl, Penix just kind of seems to be fading a little bit, where Daniel still seems to be staying at the top of the draft.
My answer to that would be, I don't know the guy's name, but the offensive coordinator for Washington helped all 3 of them. They were a stretch-it-out team, Ted. They weren't going to sit back and run it up the middle. They were going to throw the ball all over the yard. But Penix is going to be good either way, I think, if he has time to sit and doesn't get thrown into the mess too soon. I also like Brian Thomas's red zone ability. Get down there in the red zone, no need to run it up the middle.
Those 2 LSU guys combined 2,746 yards and 31 touchdowns. Out of the 40 touchdown passes Jaden Daniels had this last year, that would make 31 of them going to one of those 2 guys.
Which makes Ted's question legit. If he goes to the Giants,
with Daniel Jones, I don't know.
Now with Danny Dimes.
Unless he faces that Donatel defense.
The thing I got to throw out there about Troy Franklin from Oregon is the massive amount of speed he has. You combo his speed with his route running, and he is a serious threat on the field.
I would think the DEA would want to be interested in the amount of speed he has.
He's got a lot of speed. DEA, FBI, bring in all the letters. They can handle them all. He's a really big production guy. 81 catches, 1,383 yards, 14 touchdowns. He has 3 seasons there at Oregon. If you play for Oregon wideout, you're going to get a lot of passes, whether it's Bo Nix or Herbert. I mean, it's just the way things are. Troy Franklin, look at this guy. Really dominates man coverage. Better a man guy, better outside receiver than a guy you're going to put in the slot. There's not really much he does bad. Leggett caught a bunch of long touchdowns from who? South Carolina? Yes, he did. I am a little higher on my list than most people have. Leggett, 4.29, laser, Ted, and he's big. The size-speed combo is crazy. 5 seasons, South Carolina. Look at this guy's tape.
I have a question about him. What's his catch point in a phone booth?
His catch point in a phone booth is damn high.
Okay. I just want to know.
He's got good stop and start, Ted. He's got sand in his pants.
Really hips.
The thing I noticed much about him, Leggett, is he's kind of a DK Metcalf type guy.
Really?
He
That's
has
a good
great
comp
speed.
right there, buddy.
His size and speed remind me of DK Metcalf, 6'3", 223, and he can motor. If Al Davis was still alive, this would be the Raiders' first-round pick. I guarantee you, because he's everything Al Davis loved in a receiver.
I see you got 2 Texas guys back-to-back there in the second round. That's your second-round pick.
Adonai Mitchell, AD, we like to call him, another 6'4", 196, runs a 4.5. He's a little slow. That's why he's probably going to fall on people's lists. But number 1 in the Big 12 in touchdowns last year, the go-to dude for Texas with Xavier Worthy on the other side, another school that had 2 really good wide receivers. He's a big play guy, Ted. Adonai Mitchell likes the big catches at the big moment and the big time in a game he comes through. He played in 5 college football playoff games and caught a touchdown in every one of them. He's not scared to get the ball. You throw the ball his way. He one of those guys that wants to make the last shot and wants to make the big catch at the end, wants to be in the batter's box with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth. That's how confident he is. He's a great player. His counterpart, Worthy, who I have at 9. Worthy was all signed in to go to Michigan, changed his mind at the last second. So he's got some screws loose in his head, because whoever does that, you got to have some kind of mental problem.
So he wasn't worthy.
You're not worthy. You're not worthy.
No, he decommitted, went to Texas because he actually wanted to play. He knew Michigan. He wasn't going to play over there with all their stud receivers. This guy, it might be the biggest nightmare to cover in the draft. His durability is a factor, gets banged up a lot, got that nailer thing a little bit, got a little bit of reputation for that, but 75 catches, over 1,000 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's impossible to press coverage on. You can't get him in the bump and run, which some of these guys suffer with a little bit of the bump and run. But if you want a guy that deals with press coverage really well, he is worthy. He's worthy of that.
Is that why you have him knocked down to the second, because of his durability?
Yeah, I think so. He's got to put on some mass. The 172 weight kind of concerns me, so I had to drop him down a little bit. But great hands, great receiver, makes a living over the middle. One of those guys that can over the middle, turn around the button hook and get you 12 yards for a first down. He is really, really a good natural receiver. And 4.29, like I said, he may be the fastest guy in here out of my top 15.
So the next guy on your list is a guy that I'm kind of interested in out of Georgia, is Ladd McConkey. Now, I believe we're legally obligated to compare him to both Wes Welker and Julian Edelman, just because. But, if you're looking for like a slot wide receiver, I mean, he's kind of the guy for that, isn't he?
He is perfect multi-role receiver in this draft. Not the speed burner you need, but if you're going to run a guy in the slot just to move the chains, be a solid catcher, Chris, he's exactly what you need with that. 30 catches for 461, but Georgia doesn't recruit scrubs, and he also had, he had another guy on the other side of him playing. I can't remember his name right now, but they had to share a lot of passing. He's a little bit small, 5'11", 187, but he plays a big game. Very, very smart receiver. Chris Walsh, remember him for the Vikings?
Yeah.
Yep.
Chris Walsh may not be a big name for the Vikings, but he's one of the best route runners the Vikings ever had. He needed to play for 6 yards and a first down. It was him. He was hurt for 4 games last season. That's probably why his numbers are down a little bit. He didn't play the month of September, but he's probably the smartest wide receiver that understands the game of football in my top 15. Ladd McConkey is the guy I got on the Viking watch. Because he's so versatile. He's so versatile. Now, he's a very coachable guy. He's the guy that's gonna. You talk about players around you to make people better, like Blake Corum. McConkey's that guy. Good energy guy. Good locker room dude. I'll wrap up the McConkey by saying this: in 3 years, he'll be the guy. Not even 3 years. Maybe next year. fans are watching him play and McConkey's playing against him, he's the guy they're going to be yelling at the TV going, McConkey again? Can't we cover that guy? That's who he is. I'd love to see him on Minnesota, man.
We could use guys like that.
I swear, people are going to watch it going, how many catches does that McConkey guy have? He has 14. And it may only be for 80 yards, but he made 6 first down catches. He'll block for you. He'll do anything for you. If there wasn't so much talent in this draft, Chris Gates, I would have had him higher than 10. But there's so much talent in here. It's hard to list all these guys. Viking Watch. I also have the Viking Watch on Jalen Polk from Washington. I like his size. He's a slot guy, one of the best slot guys in here. 65 catches, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's playing across from a Odunze. Everybody else is a project. The Polk would be a good fit. Not very good against press coverage, but in the slot, you're not really pressed as much as you are on the outside with corners, you know? The slot, you're basically, there's a safety tailing you or flagging you. Jalen Polk is a very, very polished receiver. And then, Jerry Rice's kid at 14 and my boy at 15.
Nice.
What do you like about your guy, Roman Wilson, other than he's from Michigan, that you put him over some of those guys you mentioned earlier that didn't make your top 15?
He's Edelman. He doesn't sleep with people's wives like he did in the Patriots. Ooh. Roman Wilson's a good guy.
Allegedly.
Edelman.
Gotta put allegedly in there. We're going to get sued.
Roman Wilson. Big money receiver, guys. He's the big money guy. Couldn't keep him off my list, and a lot of people don't like him. He caught 48 passes for 789 yards and 12 touchdowns. That's for Michigan. If he played for another team, he would have had 178 catches, 5,000 yards, and 40 touchdowns. Michigan runs the ball, but Roman Wilson was the money guy, Ted. He is, and you've seen him play against Ohio State. Money catches.
Owen Wilson.
No, that wasn't a fumble. That wasn't.
Owen Wilson's a better player. Shut up.
Hey, Roman. It wasn't a fumble across that goal line either. It wasn't.
It was a freaking interception, man.
No, it was not an interception.
It was. That was an interception.
Past the plan of the goal line. Take your medicine and take your medicine.
Interception. Ohio State won that game, but whatever.
You can stop talking to me now.
Who's gonna stop?
You can stop talking to me now.
Who's gonna stop me?
You can stop talking to me now. Okay, you can stop talking to me now.
Who's gonna stop me?
You can stop talking to me now.
Who's gonna stop me?
I'm done arguing with you. You can stop talking to me now.
Okay, be done.
He runs a 4.3 40. He's fearless over the middle. Lots of circus catches. He's another guy. He may not be as versatile as Lad McConkey, but Roman Wilson is a pass catching machine. Doesn't drop any passes, Ted. I like the guys that don't drop passes.
Except in the end zone against Ohio State, which was a pick.
He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He beat Ohio State single-handedly.
Shut up.
Remember, Roman Wilson, that is the one guy that it's probably going to slip into the 4th round. I don't think anybody's going to take a chance on Roman Wilson just because he doesn't have the numbers that all the rest of these guys have. But I like Roman Wilson. Of course I do, Ted. He's a solid receiver.
Why wouldn't you? I'd put him up there too if I was doing this, if I was you. Let me ask you guys this. Do you see the Vikings going after a wide receiver? So they've got a pick in the first right now. They've got a pick in the first round and the second round, no pick in the third round because of the TJ Hawkinson trade, and a pick again in the 4th round. Do you see them getting a wide receiver in the 2nd round? Chris?
I think it's something they definitely need to explore at the very least. I mean, if you're looking at some of the other positions they have needs at, I think a lot of the defensive positions can probably be addressed in free agency. But if you want to get somebody to build around, particularly if you are bringing in a young quarterback, you get a guy in the 2nd round, whether it's a McConkey or Worthy or somebody along those lines. So I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, it might not be a blaring red light need on the radar yet, but it's a need. Especially if you let all these guys go that we anticipate them letting go here.
Drew, 2nd round guy, do you get a wide receiver?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so because of the depth of this draft. I mean, there's another 15 guys I didn't mention that could probably be maybe starting halfway through the season, beginning of the season. It's a very loaded draft. And the reason that I say no in the 2nd round is because they got Jefferson, they got Addison. Those are their main guys. The Vikings need to find that David Palmer guy. They need a guy in the slot like a McConkey, Leggett, Worthy. If any of these guys fall, you can get them.
I would think if they're going to target somebody, it's going to be in the 4th round, maybe the 5th round. I think when it's all said and done, the Vikings are going to use their 1st and 2nd round pick. They're going to trade up for a quarterback, which means they're going to sacrifice their 2nd round pick, and they're not going to have a pick again until the 4th round. Which means hopefully they'll address their defensive line in free agency, which means they might look at wide receiver in the 4th round, depending on what they do in free agency as well. I don't know. It's a good class. I hope they don't ignore wide receiver, but I'll tell you what, if Blake Corum's still around in the 4th round, I hope they get him at running back. I don't think he will be. I think he'll be long gone, but
No.
I love the guy. I love the way that guy plays football. Well, that's just me. What do we got next week?
Tight ends.
Tight ends next week. All right.
Yep.
So our offseason positional analysis rolls on with tight ends. Very intriguing spot for the Vikings with TJ Hawkinson's injury late in the season. That throws a wrench into a lot of things what the Vikings may or may not do. So we'll be back with that next week. Again, no trivia this week, but we got trivia coming back next week, I believe, is what I was told earlier in the day. So we will be back with trivia next week. But for right now, that pretty much wraps up episode 123, boys. What do you think?
Yep. I think we did a fine little episode here and talked about aliens, numerous aliens throughout the course of the show here. And the wide receiver position is going to be something, like I said, it might not be the most glaring of needs for the Vikings yet, but Drew said behind Jefferson and Addison, one of those guys gets hurt, somebody's got to go out there and catch passes, so they need to do something about it.
Right. Yeah, it's something that's got to be addressed. 4th, 5th round, I think there might be some real talent there, Drew. I don't know. It just seems like it.
I'd feel better probably going that route than going the free agent route. You always like to draft that wide receiver that might turn into just an absolute stud, man.
Well, Stephon Diggs was a 5th round guy, so you never know.
There you go.
So
there you
we'll
go.
See. All righty. Well, for Chris, for Drew, look, folks, thanks so much for joining us. I just love doing the show. Chris, you've been a wonderful addition to the team. You have been on the team for a long time doing the live show, but for the studio show, man, this has been fantastic. Ruby, again, thanks for everything you do. For everybody that tunes in and watches and likes and subscribes and comments, that just blows me away. We're 25,500 subscribers. That's just that's a stupid number, man. Stupid good. Don't get me wrong, stupid good. But I just I'm on Facebook and I see in your memories it pops up. We just passed 200 subscribers, and I think that's just wonderful. I'm like, holy crap, that's just whatever. Anyways, I've blabbed on long enough. We'll try to do better the next time. Brother Drew, take us home.
Hey, what a great show tonight. Loved going over the wideouts. And, of course, I love doing the movie Alien. This ship will destruct in T-1 minute. God damn it! It's a great movie, and I'm glad we had a chance to throw it out there tonight. Like and subscribe. We got a lot more ahead of us. We got a long way to go with these positions. Next week, we got tight end.
That's what she said.
We got tight end, and that is what she said.
Stupid. I'm dumb. I'm sorry.
I'll take it home with this, because I couldn't do it last week because I faded out.
Alien!
Good night, Chris. Good night, Ted.
Good night, everybody.